The first thing he noticed was her hands. They were trembling so badly that the coins in her palm kept slipping, clinking against the counter and scattering across the scratched plastic surface. It wasn't busy for a Friday night. Just a quiet neighborhood grocery store outside Columbus, Ohio. The kind of place where the fluorescent lights hummed louder than the customers, and everyone pretended not to notice each other's struggles. Mark Reynolds had only stopped in to grab a frozen pizza and a 2-liter soda. After a 12-hour shift driving deliveries, his back ached, his eyes burned, and all he wanted was a hot shower and silence. But as he stood in line, watching the young cashier try to steady herself, something tugged at him. She couldn't have been more than 22. Her name tag read Emily. Her blonde hair was pulled into a messy bun, and there were dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. She scanned items carefully, forcing a polite smile at the elderly woman in front of him. "Your total is $23.47. She said, her voice soft but shaky. The woman paid and left. Emily exhaled deeply, almost like she'd been holding her breath. Mark stepped forward, placing his items on the conveyor belt. "You okay?" he asked gently. She froze. For a second, she didn't look up. Her fingers hovered over the barcode scanner, trembling again. "I'm fine," she said automatically. But she wasn't fine. Her hand shook even harder now. Mark wasn't the type to pry. He kept to himself. After his wife passed away 3 years ago, he'd built walls around his heart. Conversations were easier when they stayed shallow. But something about Emily's trembling hands reminded him of hospital corridors, of waiting rooms, of the kind of fear that doesn't let you breathe. "That's not a fine kind of shake," he said quietly. "That's a something's wrong shake." Her eyes flickered up to his. And that's when he saw it, the glassy layer of tears she was fighting to hold back. For a moment, she looked like she might brush him off again. But then her composure cracked. "My mom's in the ICU," she whispered. "They're not sure she's going to make it through the night." The words hit him like a punch. He swallowed. "I'm so sorry." She nodded quickly, blinking hard. "I'm supposed to be there. But if I leave, I lose my job. And we need the insurance. I can't afford to lose this job." Her voice broke on the last sentence. Mark felt his chest tighten. He remembered sitting in a stiff hospital chair, watching machines breathe for someone he loved. Remembered feeling helpless, powerless, small. "How long's your shift?" he asked. "Another 4 hours." 4 hours. 4 hours while her mother lay in a hospital bed, possibly dying. Mark knocked twice before pushing open the manager's office door. A middle-aged man with thinning hair looked up from his computer screen. His name tag read Greg, store manager. "Can I help you?" Greg asked, cautious. "Yeah," Mark said. "I hope so." He stepped inside and closed the door halfway, lowering his voice. "Your cashier, Emily. Her mom's in the ICU." Greg sighed heavily, rubbing his forehead. "I know." "You know." "She's been on the phone all day. I told her if she needs to leave, she can. But she won't. Says she can't afford to lose hours." Mark clenched his jaw. "So tell her she won't lose them." Greg gave a humorless chuckle. "That's not how corporate works." Mark took a deep breath. He wasn't a wealthy man. His savings weren't impressive. He drove a 10-year-old truck and rented a small townhouse. But he had something he hadn't touched since. Linda died, the life insurance payout he'd kept tucked away, afraid to use it. "How much does she make an hour?" Mark asked. Greg blinked. "Excuse me." "Her shift. 4 hours. How much would it cost to cover it?" Greg leaned back, studying him. "You serious?" "Yes." "Minimum wage. But that's not the point. I can't just take money from a customer to let an employee leave." "Then don't," Mark said. "Put me on the schedule. I'll bag groceries, stock shelves, whatever you need. I used to work retail in college." Greg stared at him, stunned. "You'd work her shift?" "If it means she gets to be with her mom?" "Yeah." Silence filled the office. Finally, Greg stood. "You really don't have to do this." Mark's voice softened. "I didn't get to say goodbye to my wife. Traffic accident. Gone before I made it to the hospital. If I can help someone else not live with that regret, then yeah, I have to. Greg's expression changed. The corporate rigidity melted away, replaced with something human. Give me 5 minutes, he said. When they walked back onto the floor together, Emily looked confused. Emily, Greg said gently, clock out. Her eyes widened. But, go to the hospital. Your job will be here tomorrow. She looked from Greg to Mark, realization dawning. You didn't. She whispered. Mark shrugged lightly. Hospitals don't wait. Her lip trembled. I can't pay you back. You don't owe me anything, he said. Just be with your mom. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. She rushed around the counter and, before he could react, wrapped her arms around him. Thank you, she sobbed. Customers watched quietly. No one complained. No one rushed. As Emily grabbed her bag and hurried toward the exit, Mark stepped behind the register, awkwardly adjusting the name badge Greg handed him. The scanner beeped under his uncertain grip. For the first time in 3 years, he felt something inside his chest shift. It wasn't grief. It wasn't loneliness. It was purpose. And he had no idea that what he'd just done was about to change his life in ways he never imagined. 2 weeks passed. Mark almost forgot about that night. Life returned to its rhythm. Long shifts, quiet dinners, empty rooms. He wondered sometimes how Emily's mother was doing. But he didn't go back to the store. Part of him didn't want attention. Kindness felt purer when it stayed anonymous. Then one Tuesday morning, there was a knock at his door. He wasn't expecting anyone. When he opened it, he froze. Emily stood there. But she wasn't alone. Behind her were 3 people, a tall man in a suit, a woman holding a camera, and Greg from the grocery store. Mark's heart dropped. What's going on? Emily stepped forward, eyes bright but steady this time. My mom made it, she said softly. Relief flooded him. She's still in recovery, but she's alive. And she keeps asking about the man who let me say goodbye. Mark shifted uncomfortably. You don't need to. The man in the suit stepped forward. Mr. Reynolds, I'm Daniel Harper. I run the Harper Community Foundation. Mark blinked. He'd heard the name before. The Harpers were known across Ohio for funding hospitals and scholarships. My wife was in that ICU, Daniel continued. Same night as Emily's mother. She overheard what happened. The nurses talked about it for days. Emily smiled through tears. Kindness spreads faster than we think. Daniel handed Mark a folder. Inside was a letter. And a check. Mark stared at the number. It was more money than he made in 2 years. I don't understand, he whispered. Daniel smiled warmly. We are launching a program called Shift of Kindness. It helps hourly workers facing family emergencies. We want you to help us run it. Mark's throat tightened. I'm not qualified for something like that. You are, Emily said firmly. You saw me when no one else did. Daniel nodded. Empathy is the only qualification that matters. Mark felt tears burn his eyes, something he hadn't allowed in years. Linda used to say that the smallest choices shape the biggest stories. Standing there, on his front porch, holding proof that one quiet act had created a ripple far beyond a grocery store counter, he finally understood. I just didn't want her to lose the chance to say goodbye, he said softly. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. And because of you, she didn't. In that moment, Mark realized something powerful. Kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about noticing trembling hands. It's about asking one simple question. It's about stepping forward when you could easily step away. And as the camera woman quietly captured the moment, and Emily hugged him once more, Mark felt something he hadn't felt since before the accident. Hope. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just steady. And real.